Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Katie Morgan and I help ambitious women break free of paralysing anxiety, self-doubt and imposter syndrome so that they can finally reach their full potential at work and in their careers. And today I am going to talk to you about negative self-talk and how to finally overcome it and what steps you can take to take control of that inner critic that we have inside us. So what is negative self-talk? I would say, I kind of call it's our inner bully, that voice that has nothing nice to say to us. And the problem with the inner critic that we have inside of us is it limits our belief. It limits our ability to believe in ourselves, to believe in our abilities to handle things when life throws them at us. You know, life is never easy, but it really doesn't help to have someone berating you when the difficult things happen. You know, it stops you from being able to reach your full potential, and it potentially stops you from being able to make positive changes in your life. You know, it's the sort of stuff that you tell yourself that's going to knock your confidence and your belief in yourself. So, you know, it is good to consider the ways that we need to improve, but there's a massive difference between self-reflection and negative self-talk. So, you know, negative self-talk isn't constructive. It doesn't motivate you. It doesn't motivate you to make the changes that you need to make. You know, if you're constantly telling yourself you can't do anything right, you're a loser, you're shit, you don't deserve anything, like none of that is constructive. You know, it's not rational. It's not taking into account that, oh, you know, maybe you need to manage your time better, or maybe you need to do this or that, and just being a little bit more constructive. It isn't constructive at all. So, you know, if sadly it sort of robs you of your peace of mind and essentially your emotional well-being, and if it's left unchecked, it can really develop into, you know, quite serious mental health problems. So, you know, this isn't something that you want to ignore. We all talk to ourselves. What's interesting is actually negative self-talk can come in a few different ways. So you've got personalizing. So this essentially means that if anything, you know, anything bad that happens, you automatically blame it on yourself. So, you know, example would be you're on a group chat and everyone is slower to reply than normal. You instantly jump to, oh, they, you know, I've done something, they don't like me. You know, you're blaming it on yourself instantly when there's actually no rational reason to think that. You know, maybe they're just having a busy day. Another way is filtering. So you actually magnify the negative. So you filter out all the positives and all you do is focus on the negative. So, you know, for example, you make a mistake at work, and rather than, you know, thinking about all the positive things that have happened or all the positive feedback that you've got, you just focus on the negative. You've also got catastrophizing, where you immediately jump to the worst and immediately assume the worst. So, you know, for example, you're on the way to the office, you get stuck on the train, you get stuck on the underground, and you automatically think you're going to be 2 hours late for work, when, you know, there's no real need to go to that extent to think you're that amount of drama. So that's another way that we can actually be self-talk. That's our inner critic working there. Finally, polarizing. So this is where you just see things as good or bad. So there's no middle ground. You know, you've got it kind of has an element to do with perfectionism here. So, you know, if something isn't perfect, then you're a failure. You know, for example, you want to get up earlier, and you've been getting up early all week, and then one day you hit the snooze button and now suddenly you're a lazy person. So, you know, it's no secret that the way we what we say to ourselves plays a huge role in how we see the world and how we experience the world around us. So if you've got someone sitting on your shoulder just speaking crap to you the whole time, it's going to have a huge impact on how you feel and how you see things. The problem is that negative self-talk can actually be very subtle. And quite often it happens without us consciously realizing it or listening to it. Like, you know, it isn't always screaming at us. It can be very, very subtle. So you really do have to practice paying attention to this stuff. So here are my 4 steps to actually overcoming self-talk. So firstly, notice the critic. To get control of this, you have to notice it. Just simply paying attention to your thoughts. Notice what the critic says. What tone does it say it in? When does it say it? What are you doing? You know, is it constantly saying the same thing? Is it in the same situation? You can really notice patterns and you know, anything that keeps cropping up for you, but really pay attention and start to notice it is really the first step. And also notice your emotions. Actually, our emotions can be a huge cue, an alarm bell that we're actually having our inner critic right now. So, you know, do you feel guilt? Do you feel shame? Do you feel worthless, you know, worthlessness? You know, these are all signs that you've got your inner critic is sitting there talking to you. You know, a really good exercise is to just write it down. Maybe get a super small journal that you can just carry around with you in your bag or wherever. And when this crops up for you, you know, jot it down. So every time you find yourself being self-critical, you know, note the situation. Did you get up late? Was it a meeting with your boss? Did you fight with your, you know, your partner? Did you slip up in your diet? And then what are you saying to yourself? You know, are you saying, oh, you're lazy? I'm a bad employee. My boss hates me. You know, my partner's going to break up with me. I've no self-control. You know, I'm lazy. I'm fat. I'm ugly. Like, what are you actually saying to yourself? Once you're aware of your critical voice, then you can stand up to it. So this really is probably the most important part, and it's a lot easier said than done. But you know, keep with it. Keep the journal. You will start to become very, very aware of what you're saying to yourself. Number 2 is to separate yourself from the critic. So, you know, just remember, you weren't born with an inner critic. You weren't a small child with an inner critic. Like, this started somewhere. And, you know, this is something that you've learned from your past experiences, negative. Maybe your parents spoke to you like this, you were bullied at school. Like, you've learned this, so you can unlearn it. And the best way to do from that is to really get a separation from you and this voice. A great way to do this is to give it a name, like something ridiculous, like something really stupid, or whatever kind of works for you. But this naming it a really silly name or a ridiculous name or something derogatory helps you to kind of really understand that this isn't something that is you. This isn't you. You know, you're trying to separate this from your own identity. Number 3 is to talk back to it. You know, imagine it's, you know, you're acknowledging the voice, but imagine it's a bully. You know, call it out, talk back to it, stand up to it. You know, when you start to talk back to it and when you start to dialogue back with this voice, it starts to diminish. You know what's going on here. You know that this is your inner critic, and you know it's not part of you. It's not you. This is just something that you've learned. You know, you can see it, you can deal with it, you can talk back to it and focus on that separation, that it's not actually you. And then finally, replace the critic. So just like a toxic friend, you know, zone this person out. You want to you want to replace them with a better friend. You want to replace them with a better ally. And this is where you start to practice your self-kindness, like talking to yourself in a much kinder, much nicer way, being just a lot more rational about things that go on in your life. You know, you want to change the dialogue. So I think a really good way to do this is imagine that you are your best friend. Like, what advice would you give them in that situation when you're saying, "Oh, I slipped up on my diet, and you know, I'm so lazy," and blah blah blah. Your best friend would sit there and say, "Oh no, hang on, that's actually not true. You know, you did really well here, there, and." It's just like having a best, you want to talk to yourself like your best friend would talk to you, just nice, soothing, rational words, not making too much of a big deal about it. And you know, the thing is that it's like a muscle. This, when you first start this, it's not going to be easy, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but you know, like a muscle, you will grow stronger, it will develop, and the more you do this, the better you will get at it. And you know, finally, you know, just understand the power of your words. You know, I'll say this over and over again, but what follows I am follows you. So if you're telling yourself bad things, you will not experience a good life. Like, tell yourself better things. So this was my very short video on the 4 steps to overcome negative self-talk. So I hope you enjoyed it, and please comment below if you have had any success with this. Thanks very much. Bye.